In room 415 of the Carver Building in Washington, D.C., a heavy silence hung over the Congressional hearing room. The sky outside was overcast, a light drizzle streaking the windows, amplifying the tension inside. Staff members darted through the hallway, clutching coffee cups and thick stacks of documents. Reporters, cordoned off behind velvet ropes, adjusted earpieces and whispered about rumors swirling in the Capitol. Inside, committee members trickled in, their faces weary, half attentive, half wishing the day would pass uneventfully. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett entered quietly, her sharp gaze scanning a thin set of notes. Her team had prepared meticulously for days, verifying evidence, organizing documents with precision. She didn't need to speak. Her presence commanded attention. Her aide, Mia, a petite woman in a dark green suit, whispered final updates before taking a seat behind her. Across the room, Kash Patel, director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, sat at the witness table. His tailored suit fit perfectly, his tie a touch flashy for the somber setting. He leaned back, chatting lightly with his lawyer, a faint smile playing on his lips. His nameplate gleamed under the LED lights. As the room settled, cameras from major and minor news outlets adjusted focus. Microphones blinked red, and chairs creaked. Committee Chairman Clarence Thornton opened the session. His voice clipped as he read the agenda. Patel was there to address allegations of FBI overreach in surveilling journalists and political opponents, a contentious issue that had simmered for a year. Everyone expected a routine session to clarify prior testimony inconsistencies. They were wrong. Jasmine Crockett sat still, her hands folded, her eyes not on Patel, but on his lawyer. The initial questions followed protocol, timelines, procedures, technical details. Crockett's voice was crisp, confident, each word chosen with care, as if rehearsed. She was in control. About half an hour in, Thornton nodded toward Patel, signaling his turn to speak. Patel adjusted his microphone, his tone calm but deliberate. Miss Crockett, in your previous appearance before this committee, you stated you never shared classified information from the March 14th intelligence briefing with anyone outside the committee, correct? Crockett nodded, her reply brief. Yes, that's what I said. Patel didn't glance at his notes. He pulled a single sheet of paper from the file in front of him, not dramatically, just a plain white page with black ink. I'd like to enter into the record an email sent from Miss Crockett's personal account on March 13th, he said, his voice even. This email was sent to a colleague, Mr. Nathan Brooks, and details the contents of the March 14th intelligence briefing. The room fell silent. A chair squeaked behind the witness row. Crockett blinked, her voice stiff. That's not possible. That email must be misattributed. But Patel continued, reading each line like a gentle stab. The email was time-stamped, bore Crockett's electronic signature, and was copied to two other staffers. Mia, seated behind Crockett, stared at Patel's lawyer, who raised an eyebrow, his jaw tensing. Chairman Thornton interrupted, asking for clarification. Crockett leaned into her microphone, her voice shaky. I need to see that email. It could be fabricated. Her rhythm was off. Patel set the paper down, looking directly at Crockett for the first time. This is just one of many inconsistencies we found, he said, his tone sharp. I can continue if the committee permits. The silence in the room was deafening, the air heavy as if after a shock. Crockett tried to regain her composure, gripping her pen, her hand trembling slightly. "I need more time to verify this email," she said, but her initial confidence had evaporated. Patel didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Each word was incisive, cutting into her credibility. "I'll move on to the next piece of evidence," he said, his voice calm but loaded. "This is just one of many inconsistencies we've uncovered." Before Crockett could respond, Patel raised his hand, his tone firmer. "With all due respect, Congresswoman," he said, emphasizing respect with a hint of sarcasm, "this email doesn't reflect the full truth. You're missing context." Crockett didn't flinch. "So, can you provide that context now?" she asked, flipping a page in her file, trying to maintain her composure. Patel leaned toward the microphone. "If someone on your team sent that email and accidentally used your account," Crockett interrupted, her voice icy. "It has my electronic signature." Patel didn't miss a beat. "That signature matches 3 other emails we have on record. Same address, same font, same metadata. Would you like me to read those emails into the record as well?" A murmur rippled through the room. Thornton, for the first time, looked unsettled, his jaw tightening, his chair creaking as he shifted. "I don't recall sending that email," Crockett said quickly, her voice slightly pitched. "Good thing we don't rely solely on memory," Patel replied, his eyes fixed on her documents. Patel's lawyer, Edward Clean, a tall, lean man, placed a hand on Patel's arm under the table. A light squeeze, a clear signal to pause. Mia quietly handed Crockett a colored sheet of paper. Patel pressed on, holding up another document. "This is a screenshot of an encrypted message between you and Mr. Nathan Brooks, sent 1 day after the email. You wrote that information was handled cleanly, no trace left as planned. Can you explain?" Crockett let out a dry laugh, laced with tension. "Are you serious? Dragging out private messages now?" Patel didn't waver. "Do you deny the content?" "I'm saying you're turning personal matters into a political circus," Crockett shot back, her voice rising. "This is information from a federal intelligence briefing, not a joke," Patel said, his tone firm. The room was taut as a wire. Even committee members, previously distracted, now stared. Thornton adjusted his glasses, glancing at Clean, who remained silent. "Miss Crockett," Thornton said, clearing his throat, "you may answer the question or invoke your right to remain silent. But I remind you that this committee takes perjury very seriously." The word perjury hung in the air like smoke. Crockett clenched her hands, her jaw tight. "There's no perjury," she said, her voice trembling with anger. "This is a smear, and I won't sit here while you turn the truth into a game." Patel looked at Thornton, then down at the table, his lips pursed. The cameras captured every moment. Crockett sitting upright, her eyes blazing, her hands trembling. Patel composed, his confidence tinged with caution. Outside, 3 reporters huddled around a screen. "Is that email real?" one asked, pointing at the timestamp. "Verified," another replied, texting their editor. "That email wasn't in public records." "Someone leaked it," a third whispered. Inside, Crockett tried to steady herself. "You're trying to paint a false narrative," she said, her voice low but sharp. "You're here because the public deserves the truth," Patel replied, his tone calm but firm. The atmosphere remained electric. Crockett leaned forward, her voice cutting. "There's no conspiracy here," she said, her voice trembling. "That email was just a draft. It was never sent." Patel responded immediately. Then why did you perjure yourself before this committee by saying it didn't exist? Crockett's lawyer, Laura Pierce, a petite woman, jumped in. I object to that phrasing. It assumes unproven claims. This isn't a courtroom. Patel didn't take his eyes off Crockett. The truth is sitting right in front of us, he said, his voice cold. You knew this couldn't stay hidden forever. You just didn't expect someone to check. Thornton raised his hand. We'll take a brief recess. Crockett shot up from her chair, yanking the microphone off her jacket, muttering something inaudible, and strode toward the private witness room. Pierce hurried after, whispering urgently. The wide-angle camera caught Crockett's tense, flushed face as she passed the chairman's table. In the private room, the door slammed shut. Two aides outside overheard Crockett's voice through the wall. What the hell is going on? How did he get that email? It was supposed to be deleted. Pierce opened her laptop, scrolling through server access logs. Someone gave it to him, she said, pointing at a line of code. This isn't public. This person is close. Are they playing dirty? Crockett nearly shouted. Is Nathan Brooks involved? Pierce shook her head. That doesn't matter now. You need to stop him before he drops more evidence. In the hearing room, Patel sat still, his aide Ryan Holt whispering, She's rattled. We've got her. Patel nodded, his eyes cold. She's hiding something bigger. The room buzzed with whispers. The hearing wasn't halfway done, but every major political reporter was glued to the live feed. On social media, TikTok clips with dramatic captions of Crockett's stunned moments spread rapidly. News outlets scrambled for live commentary, phones buzzing non-stop. 15 minutes later, the committee reconvened. Crockett walked in slowly, her confidence replaced by a weary gaze. Patel began immediately. Miss Crockett, back to the email you called a draft. You say it was never sent, but here's a reply from Mr. Nathan Brooks, 2 hours after receiving it. He held up a sheet. I quote, Got it. I'll make sure the committee never sees this version. Crockett glanced at Pierce, who remained still. She took a deep breath. That doesn't prove bad intent. You're misinterpreting it. Intent is for a jury to debate, Patel said. We're just asking what happened, and this message doesn't scream transparency. Crockett's voice wavered. Everything's being twisted. You can't provide the real context. Thornton banged his gavel. Miss Crockett, please focus on the facts presented. Crockett narrowed her eyes. You're turning this hearing into a political stunt. Thornton leaned forward. Miss Crockett, I ask that you comply with the questions. Crockett's face flushed. You've already decided what you want to hear, she shouted, her voice trembling. You think you can drag me through the mud just because it fits a headline? I've worked with 2 administrations, sat in countless classified briefings, more than anyone in this room. You think a few emails and texts can back me into a corner? Patel set his documents down, looking straight at her. It's not the emails backing you into a corner, he said slowly, his voice icy. It's your own words, recorded on camera, over and over. The tension spiked. I've had enough, Crockett shouted, her voice echoing. You've scripted this, and I'm not sitting here while you dig through private conversations for political gain. She stood abruptly, cold and resolute. Pierce whispered something, but Thornton banged his gavel. Miss Crockett, you are obligated to remain until excused. Crockett kept walking, leaving the room stunned. As she exited, Mia slid a new file across the table to Patel. He opened it, his eyes pausing on a thin sheet, and the atmosphere darkened. The room fell into confused silence. For 5 seconds, no one moved. Then chaos erupted. Staff whispering, reporters reaching for phones. An editor from a Portland station bolted into the hallway to call their newsroom. A broadcaster from Atlanta started reporting live, her high heels discarded under the table. Patel sat still, fingers tapping lightly, his eyes on the new file. Thornton cleared his throat. Given Miss Crockett's departure, we'll take a recess to confer. The cameras kept rolling, capturing Crockett's exit, the murmurs, and Patel's impassive face. Within seconds, a clipped video of Crockett storming out went viral. At a coffee shop in Denver, 2 students stopped scrolling, one holding up their phone. Who walks out of a hearing like that? At a gas station in Boise, a man replayed the clip, shaking his head. Conservative commentators called it a slap to Democrats. Others said Crockett dug her own grave. In the hearing room, Patel spoke softly with Holt. "Don't drop anything else," Holt whispered. "She's sinking herself." Patel nodded, his gaze on the file. It's not over yet. The media storm erupted fiercely. Major news channels switched to live coverage. A legal expert in Philadelphia said on air, "If what Patel has is real, Crockett might need a deal." In the hallway, Pierce paced, flanked by aides. "She has to come back," she muttered. "Walking out on live TV was bad enough, but if he has more evidence, she needs to speak first." An aide asked, "Where is she?" "In a car 2 blocks away," another replied. "She needed a moment." "She doesn't have a moment," Pierce snapped. Patel returned to the witness table, signaling Thornton to resume. Crockett's chair remained empty. "We verified the contents of the next document with our legal team and 2 cybersecurity experts," Patel said calmly. "This is an internal memo from Miss Crockett's personal email server titled Conflict Avoidance Plan, Evading Traceable Channels." He paused, letting the words sink in. Holt displayed the memo on the digital screen. This memo lists strategies to avoid detection under the Freedom of Information Act, including burner phones, encrypted apps, and alternative scheduling protocols. Patel turned to Crockett's empty chair. This was drafted 2 days after Miss Crockett told this committee she never employed such tactics. Silence blanketed the room. Outside, a crowd gathered, spurred by the live broadcast. 15 minutes later, Crockett re-entered through a side door, her coat draped over her arm, her face blank. Thornton didn't mince words. "Miss Crockett, the committee reviewed additional documents in your absence. You may respond." Crockett took a long breath. "I want to clarify," she said, her voice low. "Some of the language in those documents wasn't meant to be taken literally." Patel looked up. "So, it's metaphorical?" he asked, his tone flat. She hesitated. "People in my position use informal phrasing when discussing risk management." "Burner phones?" Patel asked dryly. "Encrypted scheduling systems?" "Doesn't sound informal," Thornton interjected. "Miss Crockett, you're under oath. Answer the questions as posed." Crockett's posture shifted, subtle but palpable. She leaned toward the microphone, tired. "I followed a plan," she said slowly. "A plan we all understood. And it worked." Murmurs swept the room. Patel's grip tightened on his pen. "Who is we, Miss Crockett?" She didn't answer immediately. Mia looked from Crockett to the committee, aware she was on the verge of naming names. "Policy team," Crockett said finally, her voice small. "At least 5 people." "And you were directed to keep these communications off the record?" Patel pressed. Her voice grew quieter. Yes. By whom? She shook her head. I'm not ready to say that here. Patel didn't push further, but the atmosphere shifted. Outside, news headlines updated rapidly. Crockett admits to plan, confirms 5. Involved in secret communications. At a high school library in Tacoma, a civics teacher pulled up the live stream. This is how government oversight is supposed to work, she told her students. Patel leaned forward. We'll pause here, Miss Crockett. Not because you've said enough, but because I need to enter another document, and I want you to hear every detail. Holt displayed a screenshot of messages between Crockett and a contact saved as Stafford D. The message read, Don't mention this over email. If he asks, just deny it. He won't follow up. Crockett stared at the screen, her face frozen. I didn't write that message, she said, her voice shrill. It was forged. Patel didn't blink. It was sent from your phone, Rosita. Or maybe I don't know, Crockett stammered. I didn't send it. Holt displayed a metadata report. We traced the device ID to your phone. The timestamp matches your login to the committee's secure portal. Crockett rubbed her face, muttering, This is insane. I swear I didn't do it. Patel tilted his head. Then help us understand who did. Silence fell. I want a different lawyer, Crockett said, closed off. You have a lawyer, Patel replied. I want another one. Thornton leaned forward, gavel in hand. Then we'll adjourn for legal consultation. The room erupted into chaos, not shouting, but astonishment. Reporters, aides, and committee members buzzed. Mia whispered to Crockett, That's not the worst of it, is it? Crockett nodded slightly. I know the next one's the problem. As people left, news outlets scrambled to uncover the final document. A recording Patel hadn't yet revealed, but promised would shake everything. The media machine kicked into gear, not just social media, but cable TV, radio, and podcasts. CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News reported, clips too compelling to ignore. Outside, protesters appeared, some supporting Patel, others demanding deeper investigations. The scene resembled a courthouse on verdict day. In a side room, Crockett's team huddled. An aide whispered, They have a recording. They were ready, but haven't played it. Crockett sat silent, staring at the floor. Pierce leaned in. You have one chance to explain before they do. In the hearing room, Patel reviewed a printout of the recording transcript, his lips pursed in focus. Holt whispered, Play it now or wait? Patel shook his head. Wait. Thornton will want it on the record. Nearly an hour later, the committee reconvened. The room was packed, staff from nearby offices slipping in to witness what was coming. Thornton banged his gavel 3 times. We resume with additional evidence presented by Mr. Patel. Proceed. Patel adjusted his microphone. What you're about to hear is from an internal Zoom training session hosted by Miss Crockett when she was on the Oversight Committee. She discussed communication protocols. Is that correct, Miss Crockett? Crockett, her expression strained, didn't respond immediately. Thornton repeated, Miss Crockett, please respond. Her voice was flat. If you say it's from a training session, I don't deny it. Patel nodded. Good. We've isolated a 45-second clip. Holt played the recording. Crockett's voice came through, relaxed and confident, starkly different from the silent woman under the lights. Keep communications clean. If anything smells like it's crossing a line, send it through Signal, not email. And if you're asked about it later, deny it unless you're backed into a corner." A gasp echoed. Patel paused, letting the words sink in. Holt played another segment. "Don't write this stuff down. That's how people get dragged into hearings. Want to be safe? Use private channels. Want to take risks? Go official. Your call, guys." Crockett bowed her head, showing no resistance. Pierce whispered something, but she didn't move. Thornton leaned forward. "Miss Crockett, that's your voice, isn't it?" "Yes," she said softly. "Do you retract any of those statements?" "No," she replied, her voice faint. Patel leaned forward. "Let the record show this wasn't casual talk. This was guidance from someone with access to classified information, someone who knew the consequences." Thornton banged his gavel. "The hearing will move to an expanded review phase. Testimony will be forwarded to the Oversight Committee, and counsel will coordinate with the Department of Justice." The story shifted from scandal to legal matter. Outside, news vans powered up satellite systems. Patel turned to Holt, whispering, "We didn't find that recording. It was sent to us." Holt blinked. "Who sent it?" "Someone who wanted it found," Patel replied, his eyes sharp. The media storm grew fiercer. Clips of the recording spread with dramatic captions, amplifying Crockett's downfall. But beneath the surface, something quieter unfolded. 2 weeks earlier, in a building 4 blocks from the Capitol, a 28-year-old aide named Hannah, sharp-eyed and always 2 steps ahead, worked in the archives of the Oversight Subcommittee. Her job was unglamorous, cross-referencing transcripts, flagging duplicates, organizing old documents. But she had a habit of listening. One afternoon, she overheard 2 staffers mention a ghost drive, a USB no one officially acknowledged. They laughed, but Hannah didn't. She noted the name Stafford D and traced emails with that code in the metadata, all leading to Crockett's inbox. Hannah verified everything, printing documents and placing them in an unmarked envelope. It sat in her apartment for 3 days before she drove to Patel's regional office in Baltimore, handed it to a receptionist, and said, "Only give this to him." Patel didn't initially know where the documents came from, only that they were clean originals. His legal team confirmed they didn't pass through Congressional servers. Then the recording arrived via an anonymous encrypted email, untraceable, Crockett's voice unmistakable, recorded nearly a year earlier. Someone wanted the truth exposed, but wasn't ready to come forward. In his office, facing a whiteboard covered with names, dates, and arrows, Patel sat in thought. Holt paced. "If there are 5 people involved, and we've only confirmed Crockett, who's covering this up? No way she came up with it all herself." Patel nodded. She had help, not just staff. She mentioned a plan. Someone wrote it. Holt turned. Would Nathan Brooks talk if he felt he was the only one taking the fall? "Eventually," Patel replied. Meanwhile, in a townhouse in Fairfax, Virginia, James Carter, a former agency operative known as a fixer, sat at his desk. A burner phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "Tomorrow." Carter sighed heavily. He knew this wasn't over. The next morning, Patel received another anonymous envelope containing a single sheet. "Check the server logs from March 17th. You missed something." Holt read over Patel's shoulder, frowning. "They're still sending tips. Or is this a trap?" Patel sealed the envelope. "Because someone thought Crockett would take the fall. When she didn't stay quiet, they panicked." That night, Patel drove through Alexandria. the hum of the radio clearing his mind. He realized he'd stepped into a larger labyrinth. Not just a congresswoman with errant emails, but a honed machine of evasion built over years, hiding in plain sight. Someone believed it would stay invisible forever. But the wrong person had looked too closely, and the cracks were showing. The Crockett hearing didn't fade with new stories. It clung to the public's mind, not because of the documents or recording, but because of the silence after the recording played, when Crockett admitted it was her voice and had nothing left to say. Clips spread across social media, news shows replaying them without commentary, just 30 seconds of truth. In San Diego, an elderly woman wrote to her congressman, ending, "I don't know the law, but I know when someone's hiding. We deserve better." In Tulsa, engineering students launched a petition for greater transparency in congressional testimony. Even Crockett's inner circle cracked. A former aide went public, revealing a culture of secrecy where everyone knew how to skirt rules without getting caught. Patel didn't throw a victory party or give long speeches. When a reporter cornered him outside his office, he said, "I'm glad the truth was heard." That statement carried weight, appearing on T-shirts, shared in social media bios, quoted in classrooms and debates about government ethics. The hearing lingered in the questions the public began to ask. Why is hiding so easy? Who decides what's true? Who's watching the watchers? In Annapolis, a quiet internal audit was launched, names appearing on lists, people who sent emails from personal accounts, received encrypted files, never thinking anyone would check. Hannah returned to her quiet routine, sorting documents, passing by people unaware of what she'd done. She didn't want fame or cameras, only for people to do the right thing. Crockett vanished from the spotlight. Her lawyer issued a vague statement about misunderstandings, but no one listened. Rumors of legal charges swirled, but the damage was in what she exposed. Powerful people believed the public wasn't watching, that no one would follow the paper trail, that confidence could outrun truth. This time, the truth caught up, quiet, documented, time-stamped. For every Crockett, there's a Patel, and behind him, a Hannah. Beyond them, in classrooms, families, and late-night calls, are people who care enough to listen, question, and probe. That's where change begins, not by shouting louder, but by asking the questions they thought you wouldn't dare.